All right, here we go with our sounds one more time. I hope you've been studying. Your test is tomorrow. Quick, quark, quack, squash, square, squeeze, think, theft, thorn, and through, thrash, threat. All right. Now, biography, true story of somebody's life, emancipate to set free, jealousy, that feeling you have when you want something someone else has, conflict is like an argument or a fight, determined you are going to do it no matter what, a risk is a chance that you take that could be dangerous or embarrassing, curiosity, you just have to know, is wanting to learn all the time. And then we have a phrase, narrow escape. A narrow escape is when something bad almost happens, but something unexpected keeps it from happening. Like if you're in the car driving down the lane and all of a sudden your mom and dad see a car acting funny, so they quickly switch lanes. It's a narrow escape to keep them from getting in a wreck. We're going to find out how Abe has a narrow escape in this chapter. So we're going to continue with our biography of Abraham Lincoln by Augusta Stevenson. This chapter is called Thank Honey. The miller came to the door of his mill. Abe, he called, your cornmeal is ready. He waited for a moment, but Abe didn't come. The miller called again. Abe Lincoln, your cornmeal is ready. He waited again for a moment, but still Abe didn't come. The miller couldn't understand this. Abe often brought his father's corn to the mill, and he always waited until it was ground. Once he had to wait all day, but he hadn't complained, and he hadn't gone home till the cornmeal was ready. Okay, now I'm going to stop here and draw a conclusion. Remember that a conclusion is an idea that brings other ideas together. The man is called a miller. Abe brought corn to him. That corn is now cornmeal. I know that cornmeal is like grits or flour that can be made into bread or into hot cereal. So I can conclude that the miller is the person who takes the corn and grinds it into cornmeal in his mill. No wonder the good miller was puzzled. He was just a bit angry, too. There were several men waiting to have their corn ground, and he must spend his time looking for Abe. The men were talking outside. Now they were coming up to the mill. They didn't like this delay either. No doubt they were all in a hurry. They always wanted to get back home before dark. They were crossing a little footbridge close to the mill, and he could see their faces. To his great surprise, not one of them looked angry. In fact, all of them seemed worried. Their voices were anxious, too, when they spoke to him. Abe isn't around here, said one. I saw him go into the woods a long time ago. So did I, said another. His dog was with him. I saw him, too, said another. How long ago was that, asked the miller. Oh, it was an hour or so, I guess. All of an hour, said the first man. Then I'm afraid he's lost, said the miller. He's only 7 years old. Only 7, said the third man. Does he bring his father's corn to the mill? Yes, said the miller. He rides a horse bareback with the corn in a sack behind him, and he pays me every penny and takes the cornmeal home. My boy couldn't do that, said the fourth man, and he's 8. Abe is big for his age, said the second man. He is too smart to be lost, said the first man, and he knows the forest. Yes, and he knows he ought to be back, said the miller. Then something must have happened to him, said the second man. Bears with cubs are ugly just now. Wildcats and panthers are always ugly, said the first man. We must hunt for him, said the miller. Yes, yes, said the men. Lead the way, said the miller to the first man. You saw where he entered the woods. Follow me, said the first man. In single file, they crossed the little footbridge and passed the great mill wheel. They went down the brook and through the clearing. They were now at the edge of the woods. This is where he went in, said the first man. Lead on, said the others. But just then something happened. Something that made every one of those men stop in his tracks. A little dog came running out of the woods. Honey, cried the miller. Honey, cried the others. It was indeed Honey. He barked sharply. He leaped up to the miller's outstretched hand and he touched it with his paw. Okay, and here's a picture of Honey trying to tell the men something. His eyes were troubled and anxious. Everything he did and the very sound of his bark said it as plainly as words. Abe is in trouble. Help. Honey ran to the other men and looked into their faces with his soft, anxious eyes. He barked sharply again and again. Then he ran back into the woods. Suddenly he stopped and looked at the men again. and he barked sharply. He was talking to them. He was saying, come on, follow me. He wants us to follow him, said one man. See how he turns and looks at us? Something has happened to Abe, said another man, and Honey has come to tell us. He'll lead us to Abe, said another man. Come on. The men followed Honey. He led them far into the woods. At last he stopped at a cave. He looked at the men and barked. Then he ran into the cave. The men followed Honey. The cave was not very light, and at first they had trouble seeing where they were going. As soon as their eyes were used to the darkness, they walked faster. Soon they heard a boy's voice calling, help, help. That sounds like Abe, said the miller. I know his voice. We're coming, Abe, we're coming, shouted the men. Very soon they found him. He could walk, but he couldn't move. He was held fast between two great rocks. Why, Abe, said the miller, what has happened? I climbed up on this rock, said Abe. Then all at once that large rock fell. I was caught between them and I couldn't move. That rock might have fallen on you, said one of the men. The men worked carefully. Slowly they rolled the rock away, and at last Abe was free. He thanked the men for saving him. Don't thank us, they said. Thank your dog, Honey. Then Honey barked and barked. That was his way of saying, I brought these men here. I told them about you. The men laughed at Honey and patted him. Abe patted him too, but he didn't laugh. My goodness, he cried. What if that rock had fallen on Honey? All right, so if that rock had fallen on Honey, Abe might have died in that cave because he wouldn't have been able to get out. So Abe had a narrow escape. Something dangerous happened to him, but something unexpected, like a dog, was able to save his life. So Abe had a narrow escape. We'll listen to this some more tomorrow.